Hope Channel viewers are loyal, encouraging friends and neighbors to watch. Why? Our viewers believe that Hope Channel not only enhances living, but changes lives through its compelling lineup of programs. Documentaries take subscribers around the world and back through time, visiting places where history was made. Fascinating biographies open up the lives and times of people who made a difference. Travel programs transport the viewer around the world, demonstrating how people work together to make a better planet. Inspirational programming challenges viewers to experience the joy of discovering faith values and offers spirituality as an important part of a balanced lifestyle. Health and lifestyle programs teach disease prevention and make healthy living simple and attractive. Hope Channel programs provide invaluable support for developing healthy relationships and strong communities. Welcome to donor-supported Hope Channel. Hope Channel is sponsored by the world's Seventh-day Adventist Church. We believe in being people of the Word, people of prayer, people of deep study of the prophetic writings, people who love Jesus Christ, people who keep all the 10 Commandments, people who are compassionate, who respect others, the community, and world needs, people who live healthfully by avoiding tobacco, alcohol, unclean meats, drugs, and immorality. We believe in joy. We invite you to be a person of hope. Hope Channel viewers are loyal, encouraging friends and neighbors to watch. Why? Our viewers believe that Hope Channel not only enhances living, but changes lives through its compelling lineup of programs. Documentaries take subscribers around the world and back through time, visiting places where history was made. Fascinating biographies open up the lives and times of people who made a difference. Travel programs transport the viewer around the world, demonstrating how people work together to make a better planet. Inspirational programming challenges viewers to experience the joy of discovering faith values and offers spirituality as an important part of a balanced lifestyle. Health and lifestyle programs teach disease prevention and make healthy living simple and attractive. Hope Channel programs provide invaluable support for developing healthy relationships and strong communities. Welcome to donor-supported Hope Channel Network to be in touch with planet Earth's global community. Hope Channel broadcasts everywhere in the world with 10 global channels and is affiliated with more than 50 production studios on 6 continents. Hope Channel provides a diverse cultural programming mix in many of the world's major languages. Hope is more than great television. Welcome to Hope Channel.
Presenting the all-new Hope Channel. Clearer.
Mga personalidad nga dunay kaikag sa pagbarog sa
kami nga magtiayon.
Kaya siya nga nagpamatuod na kung ikaw
Brighter.
was confused because ginatanaw nato nga wala na tay kakampi. We are in
Stronger.
for today is old case
Arresting the attention.
Bonus na kung maging positive and it makes you
Deadly in earnest.
Right now, the campers are having their hiking.
Bringing Christ to Mindanao.
Tubig igsuon ikakampi kayo.
let's listen to what the nature will speak to us.
And bringing Mindanao to the world.
Dynamic living the totally life invited.
To feel the touch of His redeeming love.
And the world to come.
Akong right lobe, kumplito na siya.
Yes, Hope Channel Philippines will show you. there's hope in Jesus. And there's more to life.
Fear of that which is known or unknown can actually be a paralyzing event in a person's life. And what is most horrifying would be when you can get sick or any member of the family is sick. So, dear viewers, can you just imagine life? What would it be if you are actually attacked or you are actually subjected to the different diseases that you cannot even comprehend on what to do and where to get something in order to prevent it or protect yourself. But remember also that immunizations has been there for a long time, and so dynamic living, the Totally, would like to invite you, dear viewers, in the next 60 minutes as we try to discuss that shield from within with our guests here who will be joining us in our discussion on immunizations. I'd like to welcome to the show, first of all, our regular guest here, a neonatologist from Cagayan de Oro City, Dr. Dennis James Absin. Good evening sa iyo, Dennis.
Good evening, Jean, and good evening to everyone.
Yes, and of course, andito yung ating kaibigan from the Department of Health. She's in charge of the expanded program for immunization, no? Karen Yee. Good evening sa iyo, Karen.
Thank you for having me here.
And of course, andito din po ang ating kaibigan from the family medicine. He's also an occupational medicine practitioner in the city. We have Dr. Gilbert Hilye. Mayang gabi, Hil?
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Rajin. No? So thank you also for inviting us and joining this
Yes, napakaganda na ating topic for tonight because we know for a fact na, yun na nga sinabi ko, it's very horrifying and it's something na when you venture into the unknown and you do not know really what to do kung nagkakasakit yung iyong kamag-anak o ikaw mismo, no? So I'd like to ask you first, Dennis, itong immunization or bakuna, gaano ba ito kahalaga talaga?
It's very, very important because our thrust really in healthcare is more of preventive. So bago pa dumating yung sakit, napaghandaan na natin, so the children especially are protected. So once they are exposed to a particular disease, they don't get the disease anymore because they already have the protection. And this is in the form of the immunization status.
Pero di ba yung immunization na sinasabi natin, dalawang uri yan. You have the active and the passive.
Yes, you're right.
So paano yun? Para lang maintindihan ng mga viewers natin. Ano ba talaga itong bakuna na ito? Because sometimes, all throughout our discussion, we also try to discuss itong mga myths and fallacies about immunization, di ba?
Right.
So pag sinabi mo active at saka o kaya passive, ano ibig sabihin nito?
When we say active, most of the immunizations we give during childhood are actually active immunizations. So in the form of DPT, polio, BCG. So in active immunization, we're trying to give to the patient or to the child a form of a particular organism, and the child is going to develop antibodies to it. So that's a form of active development of antibodies. When we say passive development of immunization or protection, we are already giving the antibodies. Like for example, you get punctured, you get a wound puncture, so you give a passive form of tetanus immunization. So the one injected is going to be tetanus antibodies, so that the patient or the child or the person doesn't have to develop antibodies by himself, but it's already given directly. Whereas in active immunization, the child has to develop the antibodies by himself.
So, ibig
and that is
sabihin-
reliant on his immune system.
So, ibig sabihin, Dennis, pag sinabi natin, for our viewers, no, na kumbaga, bibigyan mo siya, na i-expose mo siya into something para yung immune system niya, yung body niya will be able to develop something to protect.
To protect himself.
So yun yung pinaka rationale bakit natin bibigyan sila ng bakuna.
It's
Diba?
really protection, prevention of illnesses.
Okay. What about Karen? Sa Department of Health, alam naman natin na ang Department of Health is very aggressive in promoting, di ba, etong immunization na ito. Would you say na heto ba yung coverage ninyo ngayon, how far have you gone?
Actually, we have any statistics for the 2014. We need to have 95% above for the community to be protected. But as of the moment, it is a challenge since we have only 88.23% coverage for 2014.
Pag sinabi mo, Karen, na 95% yung target goal natin na for immunization at nasa 88 lang tayo, does it cover mga kabataan at mga matatanda or we're just talking about the children per se?
We are talking about for the children, yung mga 15 months and below. Kasi we will be starting our immunization at birth for the BCG, then for the MMR, basically from 11 months to 15 months yun. So, when we say 88.23% lang yung coverage po natin, kasi yung vaccine natin, kailangan natin yung tinatawag natin na herd immunity. If you have 100 children, basically yung mag-produce lang ng yung sinasabi ni doctor na antibody, mga 85% lang yun. So, either we need to have another follow-up, kaya yung mga vaccine natin, if you notice, mga 3 doses, yung measles natin may MMR na follow-up. So yun, kailangan kasi natin itaas talaga yung herd immunity para maprotektahan lagi lahat ng bata.
Okay. So then, yung sinasabi ni Karen is more of 15 months and below,
Yes, right.
di ba? So, nasaan yung ating mga ibang edad ng mga kabataan?
Kasi the government only covers up to 15 months, and that's inclusive of BCG, DPT, polio, hepatitis B, Haemophilus influenza B, measles, and MMR. The other vaccines not covered by the government or EPI includes chickenpox, hepatitis A, typhoid fever, meningococcal vaccine, pneumococcal vaccine, which are given less than 1 year and onwards. So there is still a lot to be covered.
And walang statistics ang
we don't have the
DOH about
statistics for that.
We don't have statistics, but pag hindi siya galing kasali doon sa mga vaccine na binibigay ng libre ng gobyerno.
So ano ng mga bakuna ang libre na binibigay ng gobyerno?
Actually, we have 7 vaccines that are given to children. So we have the BCG upon birth, tapos yung hepatitis B, tapos we have the pentavalent. The pentavalent contains 5 antigens. Basically, yung sinasabi ni Dr. na H. influenza type B, yung para sa against diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, and hepatitis B. Yun yung sa pentavalent. Then we have the oral polio vaccine, the MMR, which consists of the rubella, para po against rubella, rubella, and the mumps. Then we have the measles. Then may bago po tayong vaccines ngayon na ila-launch po natin ngayon sa April 15, which is the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine.
And that is also free.
Libre din siya.
Libre siya, oo. So, ibig sabihin, walang dahilan, Dennis, para hindi ma-covered yung mga kabataan to be protected from these diseases.
Yes, because in the past, the cost of pneumococcal vaccine is really prohibitive. It's costing over 4,000 pesos. So a lot of children are not getting the pneumococcal vaccine. But as Karen has said, it's April 15, right? It's going to
So,
be launched.
ini-expect natin magdadagsaan yung mga pasyente doon sa mga areas na libre yun.
Actually, naka-allotted na yung mga vaccine. Given na siya sa mga local government unit. Andun na siya sa mga barangay health stations. So, ready na sila. After the launching, they could go ahead dun, sa kanilang mga barangay health station. And they
Okay,
could
and
have it
it's
for
enough
free.
for everyone.
Yes.
So, kinumpute na ninyo, hopefully, no? So, punta naman natin yung sa adult, kasi nasa immunizations naman tayo, eh. Hil, ang mga adults naman, ano dapat ang mga bakuna na dapat ibigay sa kanila at this age?
For the adults, especially for the workers, no? We're talking of the workers as primary health physicians. We cater more on the pneumonia, no? So, pneumococcal, no? Or sa pulmonya, sinabi, no? Or for the flu, no? Because these are the cases that once you are not immunized with this may cause absences to the workers. So that will be part of the preventive portion, as discussed already with some by my colleagues. But once na mayroon ka ng immunization with this, ma-prevent mo yung mga absences. And of course, the workers will be working productively doon sa company nila.
In other words, it's more of trying to prevent, you know, a downtime in terms of productivity sa mga kumpanya.
Sa mga
So,
kumpanya.
is it really an SOP or a standard request for the companies pag pumasok ang mga empleyado nila that they should show you this book that shows or certification na meron sila nung bakunang yon?
Actually, that should have been done, no? But with the pronouncement of our colleague from DOH, maybe, no, our listeners from the different companies will be calling us, no, and getting the immunization from them, no?
Pero yung pneumococcal na yan, para magkaya sa mga kabataan lang.
For ano lang siya, pneumococcal conjugate vaccine siya. So
you don't consider the adults?
Hindi pa. For ano siya, actually pambata siya from 6 weeks to ano siya, to 11 months.
11 months.
Yun yung target population natin.
But it can be given up to old age.
So pwede sa inyo, kaso lang hindi siya libre sa Department of Health. So yung mga mga kabataan under 15 years of age ang libre nito.
Kasi ang vaccine namin may mga specific age target 'yan. So for pentavalent, yung mga basta below 1-year-old siya. For the MMR, yung measles, mumps, and rubella, ano siya, below 15 months. So, mga ano siya, may specific age group
So,
siya.
Dennis, syempre, we're curious na heto, we have certain specific diseases that we get protection from, you know, by giving the immunizations or the bakuna. Pero, why is it so dangerous for a person or a child or an adult maybe to be sick with these diseases?
Yeah, for example, we're talking about pneumococcal vaccine. Pneumococcal, the disease itself, we call it invasive pneumococcal disease. If the child gets it, the pneumonia is very severe. So for a lot of cases, they present with coughing for the first day, second day with respiratory distress. On the third day, they would be admitted to the ICU. Or in some cases, they would come down with pneumococcal meningitis. And sad to say, even if patients treated or have recovered from this illness, they tend to have permanent neurologic disability after they are treated. So it's very damaging.
Pag sinabi mong permanent neurologic disability,
so these children do not really become normal even after they're treated for the disease.
So ganun siya ka-dangerous, no?
So, and we see a lot of cases, like in the past, last year, I think there was an outbreak of measles. And measles is one of the deadliest childhood illnesses that you can have, even in the U.S., because a lot of children in the U.S. have not been vaccinated because of the scare, the vaccination scare. So a lot of them are vulnerable to having measles. And measles can actually kill, it can cause pneumonia, it can cause dehydration for gastroenteritis. So it can have a lot of complications.
So in other words, kung normally heto lang dapat ang mangyayari sa'yo kung meron kang bakuna, if minus the bakuna, it can be more deadly, it can have more complications.
Yes, right.
And also siguro magiging mas magastos din.
Oh, of course.
It's going to be very, very expensive.
Yes.
Kasi ma-ICU ka, di ba? Tapos yung after effect pa noon, nung sakit, no? Ganun din ba, here sa adults?
That's why we are preventing that not to happen. If you mention about disability, this can also happen to adults, no? So once you have that disease already, one is you will be losing your job, no? And of course, the family that you are supporting So that will be the preventive portion with regards to the immunization. And aside from that, if ever you're already a member of the SSS or the GSIS, you will be compensated of the loss of income or the disability if ever na severe talaga yung complication niya. So, we might as well prevent by having the immunization.
Yes, kasi ibig sabihin noon, very far-reaching ang effect niya, di ba? So sa inyo, Karen, sa Department of Health, you are aggressively trying to really educate the people, you know, to do the vaccinations and to be regular about it. So how do you do that? Do you do information dissemination? Do you give lectures? Do you go out and train people to really inform the people in the area?
Aside from what you have mentioned, we do also coalition. Kasi there are groups of kanang people na hindi talaga nagpapabakuna because there's natatakot sila dun sa mga injection. And one of these are yung mga lumad. So we need to go through a certain rituals for them to accept the intervention. Kasi or else it would be a violation to their culture. So yun ang mga challenges ng immunization, yun ang mga challenges ng expanded program on immunization ng Department of Health. How to make them embrace the intervention na part talaga sa kanilang prevention.
So ibig sabihin mahirap siya minsan because of cultural differences. Which brings us now to some, you know, Dennis, ikaw being a pediatrician, how do you convince the parents na kailangan yung baby niyo po, bagong silang, bibigyan natin ng bakuna. At kailangan bumalik kayo pag ganitong edad kasi kailangan nila ng bakuna. Kasi not everybody would be willing to do that, di ba? Parang hindi kagaya ng ibang mga magulang who are really educated already, so alam na nila. Pero meron pa yung iba na may mga agam-agam So how do you, be able to bridge that one?
Yes, fortunately for us, a lot of mothers are already very aware about immunizations. But even for the educated ones, there are still who have what we call the vaccination scare. They're too much into like reading the internet, and they have this misconceptions and myths about vaccination that it may possibly cause. The most prominent one is autism. So in the past, autism has been linked with vaccination with
Kasi
MMR.
diba, isa yan sa mga issues na dinadala nila, lalo na kapag maraming masyadong component in one vaccine.
Yes.
Na kumbaga, they attribute the autism to this vaccination history.
Yes. But that has already been disproven because even up to now, a lot of mothers would tell me na, Doc, pwede ba wag na lang yung MMR or we can probably delay the MMR vaccination after the child has been talking and we know that the child is normal. But it has already been disproven. This autism scare actually came about because a study was published back in 1998 and linking autism with MMR vaccination. But this has already been disproven. It has been found out that the study was actually fraudulent. The doctor who made that study was stripped of his license to practice. So there is actually, and a lot of studies have been done proving that there is no link between autism or even other behavioral disorders with any kind or any form of vaccination.
So in other words, talagang safe naman ang magpabakuna, di ba?
It's just, and we have to reassure our parents that vaccination is very, very safe. And even if, of course, in any intervention, in any medication, you have risk, you have possibly adverse reactions that can happen. And we always tell them that the risk always, or the benefit of immunization far outweighs the risk that they get from immunization.
At saka hindi naman yata lahat ng population will have this adverse effect, di ba?
Yes,
which we will discuss mamaya, which we will discuss. Para aware din sila na, masabi nila na, heto yung these are the things we need to watch out for. Para naman informed sila, di ba? Sa adult bahil, ganun din, is it very difficult to convince them, lalo na yung mga elderlies na kailangan silang magpabakuna?
Actually, medyo magaan sa elderly because once they're already informed of the complications of that illness, they will prefer to have the immunization. The problem is the expense, because it takes a lot of money. But there are some corporations who would rather have the non-wage benefits, which promotes the health welfare of the employees. Say for example, some of the sinasabi lang 30th month, no? Part of that will be given to the health benefits for the insurance. And it can give also some benefits for that because eventually they will not become sick.
So in other words, parang pinaghahandaan na siya. Para ba siyang alkansya nilalagakan para lang for that benefit, no? And which is very good, laudable siya. Kasi, you know, napakaganda na ating discussion ngayon. Kasi heto yung sa pediatric point of view. Heto yung sa adult, working population.
Working population.
Opo. And here is the Department of Health at the middle who's trying to help us and guide us through all of this also, di ba? So, ang katanungan ko ngayon, hetong sinasabi natin na ang benefit far outweighs the disadvantages or the risks. How do we explain that para maintindihan nila na heto naman kakapiranggot lang talaga sa population na ito at dapat huwag kayong matakot?
It's also a good thing that because immunization is very prevalent, so a lot of mothers or even lolas are aware that their kapitbahay or their pamangkin or their apos have already received the immunization and nobody has exhibited any adverse reaction. So it's also safe. And a lot of them also are aware that there are those who have never been immunized, who got sick, who spent a lot of money in the hospital, and even some have died. So they're aware of the risk also. The benefit and the risk, personally, they have an experience. So it's very, very easy to convince them to have the immunization.
Okay, when we return po, we'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll try to discuss further what would be the risks, di ba? At saka ano yung mga adverse reactions, what are the things to watch out for in order to convince our viewers na heto talaga dapat gawin natin. Please stay tuned.
Hi sir, may hapon. Muutuo ba ka nga naay bisa ang bakuna?
Yes.
Oo, na. Okay, naa ma'am.
Para sa ako personally, dili ko mutuo nga kinahanglan ang bata bakunahan. Tungod kay kung ang immune system sa bata strong, kung ang parents kanunay ginapakaon ng ilang mga anak sa mga prutas, gulay, magiging strong ang ilang immune system. So I think para sa ako gyud kay naman ko yung mga anak, siyam kabuok ng akong mga anak, and I never let them experience such kind nga pabakunahan. Pero walang isa sa ilang na ospital. So akong nakita, naobserbahan, mismo na eksperyensyahan, mas maayo the parents should go back to the original diet given to men. That is a way that the children will be having a strong immune system and they will be away from such kind of virus or whatsoever diseases that easily comes in because of the immune system that is weak.
Siguro, orag.
So magpabakuna kaya ka kung nailibre, ngano dili?
Magpabakuna ko man para sa atong protection sa atong lawas. Para po iwas sa nabitay bitok or sa ba?
Yes.
Ngano man?
Ang bakuna mo gud maka tabang guna sa kuan gud sa mga sakit nga makalayo ka sa mga sakit sa gamay pa ka dapat ikaw magpabakuna. Dili gihapon ko magpabakuna or ang akong anak dili na ko gihapon bisan libre. Tungod kay kabalo ko nga kining bakuna. These are virus from dead animals. Just like sa mga tambal sa diabetic person. It's either from baboy or pigs or spider or halas, snakes. Para sa ako, mas maayong wala ni siya sa lawas sa tao. Kay once nga magutom ning mga virus, kaunon man nila ang mga cells sa tao. For me, it is dangerous.
Magpabakuna ko kung libre. Ngano, para kung depende sa vaccine kasi kung sa kaayuhan naman, sa kabutihan yon, 'di ba? O di okay lang.
Siyempre magpabakuna libre na good na. Kana pa nga importante kay na para sa mga bata.
Labi na sa mga dagko, pwede gapon. Importante ang bakuna.
Welcome back to Dynamic Living the Total You with our episode, Shield from Within, Immunization. So ngayon, narinig ninyo yung ibang in-interview. So there is a lot more, there's a lot of work to do pa pala from the point of the Department of Health.
Oo.
Yes.
For instance, kasi somewhere, one province, there was this city that wala talaga silang bakuna for 3 years. And now, they were struck with measles. You could just imagine in 10 days, 27 deaths. 50 households lang yun. So, ganun ka-grave ang sakit pag papasok talaga. Pero for that 3 years, parang walang nangyari. Pagpasok ng sakit, talagang ang daming namatay. So,
and can you imagine? Yes, let's go muna to the adverse effects. Are there such a thing as adverse effects of immunization? From your experience, let's now talk about you in your actual practices na heto bumalik sa inyo because may effect na bad sa na-immunize sa bata.
The most common effects are usually very mild. So the most common would be patients having fever after the immunization.
Pero di ba ina-advise na naman talaga ang parent na bantayan niyo po, baka lagnatin yung bata sa unang araw, di ba?
Yes, right. So they're always prepared naman kasi we tell them once they leave the clinic that, okay, if ever the patient develops fever, then you give this. Another one is swelling or erythema or redness at the point of injection, but usually that disappears after a day also. For some, they can have allergic reaction to the vaccine, so there's going to be more reaction, but that's very rarely noted. In some cases, but it's very rare, syncopal attacks. So, hinihimata yung pasyente after the immunization, but this usually is observed among adolescents. So, that's why among adolescents, we recommend that they stay at the clinic for 15 minutes after the immunization. If ever they would develop an adverse reaction, then we're able to monitor. But these are just very rare reactions.
Pero rare naman siguro yan. Parang kung out of 100, baka isa, dalawa lang meron
very
ganyan.
rare. So the most common would be fever and chest swelling. And these are very mild.
Very treatable and expected, di ba? Kasi may foreign body in-inject sa'yo eh. So magre-react yung katawan mo. Sa mga adults ba, Hil, or sa mga matatanda, ganun din? Meron din mga adverse effects?
They come the same, no? Fever, like that. But at the start of the immunization, we have already informed them. And these are adults, no? So they know what will they have, no? After the immunization. So parang wala lang sa kanila. So they can manage. They can manage for that, no? Tapos kung may complaint sila, they can just visit us again and call us. But very minor.
What about,
not alarming.
Yeah, what about contraindications to immunization? Is there such a thing as itong klaseng batang ito or adult na to ay hindi pwedeng bigyan ng bakuna kasi bawal sa kanya? Is there such a thing?
Yes. There's a certain population that immunization is contraindicated. For one, for immunocompromised patients, so children who are receiving chemotherapy, so immunization is not recommended for them. For patients having severe illnesses, like having high-grade fever at the moment, who are very sick, so we postpone the immunization until they're well. But mostly, contraindications are not very common.
So, ibig sabihin, kung okay lang at, playful ang bata.
Yes,
kasi
because
okay
a lot
naman.
of mothers would not have their babies immunized kasi may ubo, may
sipon.
sipon. So these are not contraindications. They can still have their babies immunized or their children immunized even if may sipon or
Kahit
may
na may
ubo.
sinat yata, di ba?
Yes,
Pwede
for low-grade fever even
Pwede
for
pa rin
low-grade
sila.
fever, pwede naman magpabakuna.
Okay, what about Hil sa adults naman?
Usually parang walang
contraindication.
Except for those debilitated talaga, no, na may mga sakit na. But for normal individuals, usually we don't have any contraindication.
So, what would be the time frame? Like for example, di ba, meron tayong tinatawag ng mga booster doses eh. Di ba Karen, may binention ka na at this certain age group, meron talagang angkop na bakuna para sa kanila.
Yes.
So, what are these and how often should it be given?
Actually, pag sinasabi nating upon birth, binibigyan natin yung BCG and Hepa B. Tapos pagdating nila sa 6 weeks after birth, we give them yung pneumococcal conjugate vaccine, yung pentavalent, tapos yung oral polio vaccine.
At one time yun ibibigay?
Yes, actually, but
It's a combination vaccine.
It's a combination already, no? Hindi
So
yung hindi
one
isa-isa,
shot.
one shot lang siya.
Pero yung pentavalent kasi ibang ano siya, pentavalent and PCV. So pag dito yung in-inject yung isa, tapos sa kabila yung isa. Oo.
At the same
Unless
time.
ano talaga yung parents na babalik na lang sila the following Wednesday kasi yun ang immunization day. And for 4 weeks thereafter, after the first dose, dapat 3 kasing doses natin for the pentavalent, for the PCV, and the
So 4 weeks ang
OPV.
pagitan. Ibig sabihin 1 month ang kanilang pagitan
Yes,
nila para doon. So paano yun pagka, kunyari, may na-miss out, paano yun, Dennis? Will it still be protective?
Once a child has missed a scheduled immunization, we can always catch up. Okay, so with the next visit, we're going to give it. They don't have to go back to zero, like repeat again the entire series of immunization, but they just have to continue until they're able to finish the immunization.
Well,
Except for one vaccine, which is the rotavirus vaccine. There's very strict implementation that you're not able to give it if the patient is older than 8 months of age. So we cannot give any more the vaccine. But
So,
for all the other vaccines, pwede siyang i-catch up.
Ibig sabihin, pag umabot siya ng 8 months, hindi pwedeng i-catch up.
Yung the last
Yung isa
dose,
lang.
pero in the first dose, because it can be 2 or 3 doses for the rotavirus vaccine, the first dose should be given before they reach 4 months of age.
So paano yun? Bakit, syempre, nagtatanong yung ating mga viewers in their homes now, bakit kailangan na maraming doses ibigay? Hindi pa po pwede na single dose lang yun?
Because most of the vaccines we have are not really the live or the attenuated, the whole vaccine, but most of them are just parts of the vaccine. So the immune response elicited is not going to be very adequate with just one dose. So that's the reason why we give several doses. At the end of the course of the several doses, the immune response would already be adequate. So that's going to protect already the patient.
And is it going to be for life already? Or
Yes.
for a certain period
For a certain
of time
period,
lang?
that's why we give booster shots. Like after at 1 year, 6 months after the patient has received DPT, polio, we give booster shots. Or for the pneumococcal vaccine, once the child reaches 1 year, 3 months, we give a booster shot. For MMR, we give another shot. For chickenpox, we give 2 shots. So that's going to be the booster shots.
Itong mga booster shots for children and libre pa rin ito? Hindi na?
Actually, papasok na natin kasi yung ini-introduce ko sa inyo ngayon is for infant, below 15 months, below 1 year, tapos may 12 to 15 months for the MMR. But we will be introducing the school-based immunization. So, pagdating nila ng grade 1, basically, magbo-booster na naman tayo for measles and tetanus and diphtheria.
And libre pa rin yun?
Yes, libre pa rin yun. We will be coordinating with the DepEd.
Schools already?
School, school-based.
So, there is no reason actually why we should not be protecting our children. Di ba?
Right.
Kumbaga nandyan na yan, ibinibigay na nga ng libre. Hindi pa ba natin yan i-grab yung opportunity? What about sa adults naman, Hill? Is there such a thing as a booster dose also? Or kasi may edad na, 40, 50, working na sila So binigyan mo ng isang shot ng pneumococcal that's for life na ba? Or kailangan ulitin din?
After the first immunization, it may change the following year because of the strains of the virus, no? So, usually, pag ibang taon na naman, we will be giving another dose na naman.
So hindi siya yung...
for flu.
Especially for flu,
no?
yeah.
Oo. Kasi
So,
iba-ibang
mag-change
strains.
yan ang strains niya. So,
Yes.
Yung sa pneumonia kasi, even for adults, if they're getting the pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine, they have to be given again after 3 years. But if they're getting the conjugate vaccine, for adults, 1 dose is protective already.
For
life.
lifetime na siya.
Yes.
Yun yung ikinaganda sa kanya. Pero anong reaction ninyo na usually sinabi natin nung araw kasi ang isang bakuna is only made up of 1 constituent, di ba? Ngayon kasi uso na yung 4+1, 3+1, 5+1, 6-in-1, mga ganyan. So para bang 3-in-1 na coffee, di ba? Parang ganun yun, na nandun na lahat. So So is it going to be more risky in terms of a person's ability to develop the immune system? Considering na parang at one given time, para bang binagyo mo siya kaagad ng lahat ng ito in order for him or her to develop the immune system.
That's the fear of most parents. Kasi, ay Dok, binigay mo na lahat, baka hindi kaya ng immune system ng anak ko yung lahat ng vaccines. But it's actually very safe. One can never be over-immunized. There's even a study done that they tried to inject 11 vaccines at the same time. Okay? And that only stimulated 1/1000 of the immune system. So that means the immune system of the child is very capable of handling even as much as 11 vaccines all given at the same time. And the combination vaccines we have, the maximum is just 6 vaccines in one shot.
Pagka sinabi natin, Karen, na ang target ng MDG is eradication, di ba? Yun yung pinaka-ultimate goal na you want to eradicate the disease. Like for example, ang polio, we want to eradicate that, di ba? O kaya ang measles, we want to eradicate that, di ba? Parang yun yung target. Kung baga, yun yung long-term plan na kailangan nating gawin. With these immunizations that we have now, especially with your EPI, your expanded program on immunization, can you see a very bright future na itong mga sakit na pinag-usapan natin, polio, diphtheria, itong measles, itong mga pneumococcal na to, hepatitis, do we see a bright future na darating ang panahon na wala na din yan?
Yes, actually, when we started with the measles, ang dami talagang na-admit sa Northern Mindanao Medical Center way back 10 years ago. But now, hindi mo na masyadong nakikita yung mga measles cases sa Northern Mindanao Medical Centers. Tapos yung sa polio, eradicated na siya since 2002. But yet, we still continue with the vaccination kasi our neighboring countries still have polio and pwedeng mag-import kasi yan. But for the measles, elimination lang yung natin yung target.
Not eradication.
Hindi siya eradication. Pero yung ibang diseases natin, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, yung mga mumps, more on, i-decrease lang yung mga incidents niya.
So it's not elimination, it's not eradication.
Kumbaga,
it's more of decreasing the number of cases at saka siguro decreasing the complications. Parang more of cost-effective yata siya, di ba, para sa atin. So how do you or the government sustain all the costs of this EPI, di ba? Kasi syempre, libre. Pinamimigay ng libre. Hindi nga ma-afford ng mga corporations, ng mga companies na libre. Di ba, Hil? Can the corporations, hindi, no?
They cannot give all
only some, no?
Yeah.
Oo. Pero
especially
yung iba,
yung mga rich na corporations.
yung mga multinational siguro,
Pero yung
kaya
mga
nila.
flu vaccine, they give it every year.
Correct.
Even for the dependents.
Correct.
So libre yun.
But for those not so, sabihin natin, high-end na mga corporations, I think they will be depending on DOH from the government.
Actually, we make sure na all the free vaccines are given to the LGU for inadequate talaga yung allotment nila for the whole year. So hindi naman tayo nagkulang doon. Lahat ng supplies for the vaccination andun talaga. Ang problema lang doon yung ibang group of communities na magsasubmit talaga na magpapa-inject. How we would convince them, ganon. But in terms of allocation, supplies, adequate talaga yung naa-allot sa mga local government unit.
So kung baga, who supports this? There's a budget allocated every year for this.
Yes, every year.
So it's a sustainable program.
Yes.
Hindi yung, kasi kaya ko tinanong yan, minsan kasi ningas kugun tayo. Okay, for this year, meron tayong budget. The following year, wala na kami, babawasan muna natin. So yun yung natin.
Yun yung commitment ng Department of Health.
So, paano yun? So, you're saying na it's given out to the LGUs and now you're even coming up with para sa mga kabataan na school age that will be given through, coordinated to the DepEd.
Yes, po.
So, heto din, adequate din ito in terms of the number of students that we have.
Although there are vaccines na initially, hindi muna binibigay for that. Pag initial, it's for instance, yung HPV po natin. Hindi nila ibibigay sa ngayon for the grade 9. Oh, yes. 9 years
9
old.
years of age.
9 years old. So, next year pa siya. Pero pina-prioritize mo na yung ibang mga regions. So, but for Region 10, it will be given next year. But pag nag-start na yan, talagang they need to sustain the specific target vaccines talaga that will be allotted to the LGUs.
So, yung sa mga kabataan kasi, Dennis, parang hindi kayo hirap sa inyo ba sa private sector? Like you in your clinics o kaya yung mga private practicing pediatricians natin. It's not so difficult kasi you can always, kung hindi maka-afford yung parent, you can always, tell them na, oh, you go to the RHUs or saan kayo pumunta para maka-avail kayo, di ba?
Right, because we offer them, even if we think that the patient can afford, we always offer all options. So we tell them that we have several, if you want, you can have the vaccines offered by the government, by the local health center, and the other vaccines not found there, we can give it here at the clinic. For some, they would opt for the local health units free vaccination. And for others also, they would opt to have all immunizations given at the clinic. So we always tell them that there are several options. It's not a reason, even if they don't have the money, it's not a reason not to have the child immunized.
Oh, pero don't they ask you na, Doc, baka naman mas mabisa yung nasa clinic ninyo kaysa naman yung galing doon sa LGUs or sa RHUs?
I always tell them that it's just a matter of the kind of vaccine that we're using, but in terms of efficacy, in terms of potency, they're just the same. Possibly, perhaps because you're using the pentavalent vaccine for DPT, which is, they're using the whole cell vaccine, and we're using the cellular kind, which is, you expect less adverse reactions like fever, less swelling. But basically, in terms of being able to protect the child, they're both the same. So they're both effective.
Okay. Now, let's go to the elderly or to the adults naman. Kayo naman, Hill, can you also, coordinate with sa DOH? Kasi hindi naman lahat ng mga adults or elderly can also afford
Yeah,
O
actually...
meron, or Karen, meron ba kayo para sa mga elderly?
Actually, for the senior citizen, we have the pneumococcal vaccines and the influenza vaccine. But hindi lahat in a yearly basis na gagaya ng yung sa mga children na talagang andyan siya palagi. But for the pneumococcal and the influenza for the senior, there are years na wala talagang allotment.
Yeah, for the workers, actually we recommend to the companies, as part of the Safety and Health Committee, for them to protect. And in the event that they cannot afford, of course, we will always look to the other government.
Other source.
So we are telling from the DOH, but not necessarily na silang bahala. So our recommendation to the companies is I mentioned already, the non-wage benefits, because this will really help a lot. Bigyan mo ng konting preparation for the immunization for the following year. And this will give them a protection for the whole year already. Not only for them, but that includes also the dependents.
Pero alam mo, when you really come to think of it all boils down actually, not just protecting themselves but everybody within the range of where they are, di ba? Sa loob ng bahay nila. Kunyari, ang isang trabahante, ang tatay nagkasakit. Siyempre, mahahawa niya yung kanyang asawa, yung kanyang 3 o 4 na anak na nandoon, at yung mga kasambahay pa, di ba? Ganon din sa mga bata, di ba? Na kunyari, ang isang bata ay nagkasakit ng measles, yung mga kapatid niya, mahahawa niya rin yun.
In the community as well.
In the community as well. Okay, sa eskwelahan, di ba? Ganon din. So, what we're trying to tell our viewers, heto, this is something na, kumbaga, it's our responsibility, not just for ourselves, but for the people around us. Diba? So it all boils down to your being, responsible enough to protect others also.
Right.
Kasi kakalat yan Let's go down to the very basics of these diseases. For example, Hill, yung pneumococcal sa mga adults, hindi ba heto nakakahawa ito?
It may, in other way. But the complication itself, sa kanya pa lang, that will cause a severe disadvantage on his part. Number 1, wala siyang trabaho. That's number 2, yung mga family members niya doon, mahirapan sila for the daily living sila.
Yes, kasi sa kanya pa lang wala ng pera.
Wala ng pera, yeah.
Ay, ano pang iaabot sa pamilya?
Doon
So
sa
matitigil ng pag-aaral yung mga kabataan, di ba? So para bang it's a trickle down thing. Pero lalo na sa mga bata din. Di ba? So kunyari ikaw ang bata may measles. So ano mangyayari ngayon?
So if the siblings are not immunized, so they would pass the disease to the siblings. Tapos sa school naman, so sino naman ng mga batang hindi rin na-immunize, so makahawa din with the measles. So that's what Karen was talking about herd immunity. That, for example, there are 100 children. If you're able to, because the goal is 95%, if you're able to immunize the 95 of these 100 patients, you'd be able to confer protection for everyone. Even if the 5 children were not immunized, there is going to be a herd immunity, so the community will be protected. So that's why we always want that most of the members of the community, as much as 95% of the vulnerable population, would be protected.
So paano yun? In terms of sa Cagayan de Oro, let's talk about Region 10 in our own where we are now. How are we in terms of immunization? Yung mentality ng mga tao, how are they?
Kasi iba yung sa urban, iba din yung sa rural. Pag rural kasi, it's more on parang violation on their culture. And that's why we have the coalition. Pero yung sa urban, iba din sila. Transient sila. Yun ang problema natin doon. So how do we catch up with this transient group of population na pwedeng iisa lang yung vaccines or wala talagang vaccines, ayaw talaga yung mag-submit. Ito yung problema ng urban so far. And marami-rami din sila. Oo. So, yung ginawa ng City Health Office, kailangan kasi yun in coordination with the other areas or other municipalities. Pag nakita nilang nakulang talagang i-injection na nila yun. So, it's a challenge talaga kasi...
you do home-to-home visits?
For the supplemental campaign, may door-to-door kami. For the measles, kadalasan for measles immunization yun. Kasi yun ang medyo,
naglalag behind.
Oo. Kasi ang problema kasi natin sa measles, hindi sila nagsasubmit for the MMR. So hanggang measles lang sila, 9 months, tapos hindi na sila bumabalik. So talagang very low yung MMR natin. Kung low ang MMR natin, talagang there will be pockets of vulnerables and that would cause outbreaks or clustering of cases.
So doon tayo nagkakaproblema, no? Pero sa actual practice niyo, Dennis, wala namang problem in terms of giving the entire thing, like measles as may follow-up na MMR.
Usually naman in private practice, patients or the parents are able to comply with the scheduled immunizations. Except for once they reach more than 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, sometimes wala na, hindi na bumabalik. So, yun. But mostly, they're able to follow through all the immunizations.
So, paano yun heal? Like, for example, ikaw nasa, more of sa occupational sa'yo. It's more of sa companies, it's more of sa mga employees, So, how do you encourage them talaga to be able to, protect themselves? Kasi that's a big challenge,
Number one, we compare the expenses to a sick person of that, say for example, pneumonia, and the immunization that will be given to them. So say for example, alam naman natin pag ICU, ICU, that's how much? 30 to 50,000. And immunization natin is how much lang? Mga 4 to 5,000. Depende sa brand natin. So if you are protected by that amount, so yung expense mo for 30 to 50,000, mawawala yun. Save na yun. Then how many employees na lahat sila mabigyan na will be given immunization? And of course, the company will have also to look on that aspect. Sometimes they give some what we call incentives for those having that awareness, na mabigyan ng mga immunization. And they will also give some what we call yung mga packages nila na pwede din ibigay nila, especially for some health insurances na pwede nila ipasok na sa company. So we also give some lectures, just like sa DOH, we give some lectures to the companies. And this is also mandated by the Department of Labor and Employment. because the PCOM, the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, has the mandate to assist the workers with regards to the welfare of our employees.
Kasi kaya ko tinanong yan dahil yun na nga, we have extremes of ages, di ba? We have the very young, na sa tingin naman na, andyan naman kaagapay talaga ang DOH so hindi masyadong mabigat. It's now a matter of them availing of what is being given out Heto yung mga workers naman, sana man sila tatakbo, di ba? So ayun sinabi ni Hill na maganda naman din, na they're trying to, also increase the awareness and possibly give incentives. Napakabilis po ng oras ko dito sa Dynamic Living the Total You. Tapos na po ang aking isang oras. I'd like to thank my guests. And Dennis, what is your encouraging message to our viewers?
To our televiewers, especially the parents, please don't be scared about immunization. It's very, very important to protect your child. So with immunization, you have better health. With better health, you have better lives. Thank you. Thank you, Jean, for having me over here.
Yes, of course. Napakaganda nga ng ating discussion, no? Because it is really down to the very basics para maprotektahan lahat. Yes, Karen, what is your message to our people?
Our vaccines are free and safe, so avail them. Punta po kayo sa inyong mga barangay health station para makumpleto po ang ating mga bakuna sa ating mga anak.
So, libre ito, ha?
Libre.
Kung pwede, bigyan pa ng pamasahe. Yes, Hill, what is your message to our viewers?
As an occupational physician, we have 3 stages that we can intervene with regards to the illness. One is the prevention, which is part of this is the immunization. Second is the treatment, where all doctors can do it. And the third is the compensation. Kung mayroon ng malala talaga na mga sakit nyo, that can still be compensated because you are a member of the GSIS, SSS, or even for the ICC. So, huwag natin ipaabot doon. We will have to take the prevention, the first step, which is immunization.
Yes, so preventive actually is the goal of each one of us. Remember that prevention is better than protection or cure later, no? It is always good to stay healthy and take the necessary steps, not just for yourself, but for the people you love and the people around you. Be responsible. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Thank you. Tapos na isang oras.
We are people, and we love to get connected. We connect as families because of birth. We connect as friends because we click. And we connect as communities because we care. Seventh-day Adventists are people who connect in communities called congregations, which in turn connect to form conferences, who connect together to form unions, divisions, and the General Conference. Why do we connect? It starts with a connection to the Creator, who invites us on a spiritual journey. When we journey together, we can help each other along the way. This journey is a journey of a lifetime. And as we learn and grow, life becomes filled with meaning and purpose. Our greatest joy is in helping others along the way. Wherever you are on your journey, we believe that we have something to offer that can make your life more whole. So the next time you see a Seventh-day Adventist, remember, you're not looking at someone who stands alone. They are connected to a world church that has 18 million members, gathered in 13 divisions, comprised of 122 unions, formed by 600 conferences, serving in 140,000 congregations in 208 countries, who worship in 924 languages, and they all want to connect with you.